I am going to, oh, well, wait till Laurel gets back and then we'll open up. Oh, there you go. Okay. We are all here. Then I am going to open the work session of the Eugene 4J School District. And we have all board members present virtually. We have Alicia Hayes, Maya Rabasa, Laura O'Rourke, Gordon Lafer, and myself, Judy Newman. And we are having this work session to discuss and finalize the questions we want to ask applicants for board open positions for the interviews tomorrow, actually, Monday. So it is, oh, I should say April 24th, and it's a 10 o'clock in the morning. So maybe we could start. I was going to ask Carrie, I think we sent a draft. The process we went through was we looked at old questions. Maya and I put some of those in an email, sent them out to people and asked people to write questions or see if they liked any of the ones on the list. And then Maya took a stab at incorporating everyone's feedback. We looked at it together. And so what we're seeing is a draft that's come that far. So thank you, Carrie. I think we were thinking that with the length of the interview, trying to get it to 6 questions would be good. It looks like we have 7, and we could always try that. I don't know what people think about that. I believe our interviews are 20 minutes.
I thought we said 25 minutes.
25 minutes, that's right.
And I think if we're giving the questions ahead of time, 3.5 minutes per question seems, averaging, some people might answer one in a minute and another in 6 minutes, but it feels like 3.5 might be okay.
Right, okay, awesome. And unless people feel strongly about that, or if there's something we want to eliminate from the list. So
is that the instruction we're going to give?
What, Laurel?
Well, are we going to make sure they know that they have, I would say 3 minutes, because some will go over that, but they'll stay within that.
When we did it last time, they told us how long we had. So we were able to pace ourselves. And since they'll be online, they'll have that clock. I'd hate to tell them 3 minutes per question if they have one question they want to expand more on and one that they want less. So maybe when we send it to them, we can let them know they'll have a total of 25 minutes and that they should pace themselves.
Yeah, we can make a suggestion of 3 minutes to help people.
All right. Yeah, just like we did with the other
interview. We could just say that comes out to about 3 minutes of question, but you can spend more on one and less on another.
Yeah, that's the best of both worlds. I like that.
Okay, that sounds good. So are you okay starting at the first one and making sure, see if there are any questions, or if this was one we still want to keep in? What are the most important things you think the board could work on to improve students' experiences and outcomes, whether in academics or in their social and emotional lives? And how would you measure success?
I like that question.
Everyone good with that? Anyone want to change it? Gordon, okay, good. Then number 2, part of the board's role is connecting with community. What does community engagement look like to you, and what do you see as being the board's role? What specific ways would you work with the board to engage the community?
I like that one.
Give it a thumbs up too.
Gordon, Alicia? Gordon's good, Alicia, okay. Number 3, people in groups will try to lobby board members to take up issues that are outside of the board's role or authority. How would you handle such requests?
I don't think this one's necessary. Oh, go. Sorry, Gordon. Use the rules.
Go ahead.
Gordon's got his hand up. Great, Gordon.
I also think this one doesn't make sense, and it's both because I don't know what it refers to. I haven't had that experience, and it seems like, I think I wrote this to you, Judy and Maya, that it feels like it's an argument or assertion in the guise of a question. And if I don't know what it refers to, I don't know how they'll know what it refers to. So I would take it out, unless somebody feels, somebody's trying to get at here.
Sorry. Oh, Laurel, you were going to make a comment first on that one.
Yeah, so I think I understand what it is about, but I also think it is kind of like I don't think it's a necessary question for an interview. I think it's a necessary topic to be discussed in orientation, of course, and all the things that go with this. But for an interview, it basically, they're going to be like, huh? Okay. You're not going to get a great answer from anything like this. So I do understand the necessity of understanding our limitations and what we can do, but I don't think this is the spot to teach that.
Okay. Alicia, I think you had your hand up. Or Maya, Maya's hand's up, and then
Alicia can go first.
I didn't have my hand up, I'm fine.
Maya.
I think this is, I'm okay going either way. I have to say it that straightforwardly. I'm not attached, but as somebody who had conversations with board members, I remember having a conversation with a board member who was no longer on the board, so not anyone here, who made it very clear to me that they did not believe that the role of a board member was to in any way serve as an advocate. And, that's something that's not necessarily, an objective opinion. There's different ways to be an advocate. And I'm wondering if this question might be leaning in that direction. I don't know who made the questions in the last interview process, but if it was coming from that place, then I don't see it as necessary of a question for now. I think that it's the kind of stuff that will come up in onboarding in terms of when it's appropriate, what the role of the board is, how that plays out. So I worry that it leans in a direction that might not be a position that's held by all board members to begin with, in terms of how I'm reading it. But again, I'm not attached to removing it. I don't think it's a terrible question. I think people are lobbied from all different directions, and so I'm not opposed to having it in there. I'm just sharing how I read it and where I saw it maybe coming from, in terms of Judy and I having pulled questions from past appointment interviews.
Gordon.
I just wanted to suggest, if other people think it's valuable, that if we could change the word will to may, and then it feels like less of an assertion and saying, what would you do in this kind of situation? Or I know we've often asked a question that is essentially like, what do you see as the roles and limits of the board? And if that's what we're trying to get at, we could ask that question, some version of that question as well.
Good suggestion. Alicia.
Yeah, I'm fine taking it out because Maya makes a good point. I don't think we could, when you ask a question, you might want to have agreement on what the answer is. And I think we're closer in agreement than maybe, some of the past members, but I'm fine taking it out.
Okay, it sounds like maybe no one is strongly about leaving it in, and some people would like it out. So why don't we just, why don't you highlight it, Carrie, at this point, and when we're done, we can make a final decision about that after we look at the other questions. So number 4, what role do you think staff members' voices should play in 4J policies and practices? maybe another, I was just thinking that might be, and how would you solicit input, or maybe that's too leading, maybe just leave it open-ended.
I kind of like it open-ended. I think that the how would you solicit input comes into the how would you engage the community, because I would consider them members of the community. And maybe in that case, we could take the second community in word 2 and replace it with stakeholders.
Yeah, either way. So no, that we're okay with this one as it is.
Alicia has her hand raised.
Oh, Alicia, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I wonder if this is another one of the questions, like Maya pointed out on the question before, that maybe we all aren't in agreement. So I'm not sure, though, now that I say that, it is early in the morning. It matters that we're all in agreement. But I don't know. So I have no opinion right now. That's was my kind of thinking. But I'm curious as to what Maya said. Could you repeat it and then let me see what resonates for me? Thanks.
I said about the changing number 2, Alicia, or
yeah.
I was just saying on number 2, at the very end, it ends in work with the board to engage the community. Could we replace the community with stakeholders? And then that would open up. Some people might define the community as, you know, orgs or your neighbors or whatnot. But if we specifically replace just the community with stakeholders, that includes anybody that, I mean, really it includes, it's very broad, and it allows people to talk about, you know, staff, or to talk about parents or students, or, you know.
And so are you suggesting we do that and get rid of number 4?
I'm just suggesting, Judy had said maybe we add another question that says, how would you engage the staff? And I'm saying that instead of adding a second question to number 4, we just replace the word community with stakeholders in the first one, so that people have the chance to talk about engaging the community in a broader way than, I don't know if people, when they hear the community, everybody would automatically put staff under that umbrella, as it should be, but I'm not sure that that would be the obvious answer to community. Community sometimes feels a little broader than the employees, if that makes sense. I don't know.
It does. So I actually would feel most comfortable to say, what specific ways would you work with the board to engage stakeholders and the community, or community stakeholders? I just think stakeholders has meanings to some people in community. So if you either can put them together, it's more comprehensive.
I could go with community stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I mean, conversation had about whether the business community should be a stake. You know, some people think the business community isn't a stakeholder at schools, and
so I think we could learn about what people, you know, it allows people to, I think it's fair for us to place, give people the opportunity to express how they would engage. I think it'd be interesting to know. I don't think a board will ever agree on, you know, a ranking of which stakeholders are most important, for example. I think that's something that's going to always be different based on the configurations of the board, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're okay with that wording proposed in this morning. Okay. We are, I guess, at number 4.
Yeah. No, we just did.
We just went through that. Okay. Number 5. So I think it's going to stand as it is, more open-ended, specific. Okay. 20% of our students live below the federal poverty line. Describe your understanding of what that means and experiences with underrepresented communities. So I had the question, because we're talking, I think that's a really good question, but I would, when I thought it asked two things, where it says underrepresented, could we say under, I think a lot of people think of underrepresented as broader than just students below the federal poverty level. So yeah, Laurel, you wrote, I just wanted to clarification, would under-resourced work? Or
I didn't put underrepresented.
Oh, okay.
I find that to be very tepid for kids that live under the federal poverty line. I mean, I'll have to go look for what I sent.
I think, I mean, just looking at it here, the word that makes sense to me would be under-resourced, because we want this to be a question specifically about students living below the poverty line, right? I don't know if there's another way to say under-resourced if that feels uncomfortable.
I don't have what I sent in front of me. Sorry, just a second.
So what, Gordon's had his hand up, so maybe he has some suggestion.
I don't think I'm going to be able to solve this, but I really like this question because I feel like it asks people to think about equity in a very concrete way. And I'm, you know, if other people have been working on this and have an idea how to reword it, is fine. I was actually, and we don't have to do this, but I was kind of interested in ending that sentence, describe your understanding of what that means, and less about the person's experience with whatever you want to say, poor working class communities, than their ideas of like how the board should think about this, how the board should think about addressing those needs or something like that. But I'm fine leaving it. If other people want to leave it as is, that's fine with me. I think it's a good question.
I had the same thought. So Maya.
I absolutely want to leave experience with, and I think about the power of one of our budget committee members who has experienced living in poverty for a long period of their childhood, and the impact of his statements when he shares those experiences. And I think that lived experience is often undervalued. So for me, it's important that these questions allow people's lived experiences to be just as valid and worthy of time. Because I think that those are lessons that many of us only have access to secondhand, either through trainings or work or, you know, whatever avenue we take to learn. So whether it's this question or others, I think that lived experience is something that I personally want to see effort put into making valid.
Laurel. Laurel?
I think she might be frozen.
She might be frozen. Okay. Well, why she's looking for that, I think you have a good point. Understanding what that means. Describe your understanding of what that means and your experiences with this, and to Gordon's point, and maybe the last minute, how the board might better address it. Was that sort of what you were thinking, Gordon?
That was, but I got convinced by what Maya said. So I got convinced to keep in the experience, but we could add that as well as the experience thing.
I think that Laurel just texted me to say that her computer kicked her off. I think personally, I prefer under-resourced than economically disadvantaged, because under-resourced really addresses the systemic component of folks being often kept below the poverty line, whereas economically disadvantaged feels a little more passive and just kind of like circumstances, versus that there is intention, or that there is, you know, again, systemic to me. It feels like there's systemic active obstacles that are addressable.
Okay. So why don't we try saying a part of the board's role is connecting with the community. Wait, where are we? Sorry,
Number
20%
5.
of our students live below the federal poverty line. Describe your understanding of what that means and experience with under-resourced communities and how the board could help address that. And
I think maybe we could try to make that last part a little stronger and separate it from that whole long sentence.
so put a
Maybe
period.
something like what are ways that the board can work to, I don't know.
Meet the needs of this community or provide opportunity or better serve this community. So Laurel, did you find?
I don't know what. I have.
Go ahead.
I don't know what happened. I know I can't get Zoom to move right now for some reason.
Should I read you what we have so far and see how this lands? 20% of our students live below the federal poverty line. Describe your understanding of what that means and experience and with under-resourced communities. Share your thoughts on how the board can work to better serve this part of our community.
So my intention in this question is to ask what they know, not their opinion on this, as like what is their experience. So I don't have my questions in front of me because I've been trying to get this restarted. So I can't see what was there before, so it's because it's gone. That's not the question I wrote. So
Laurel, we had a brief conversation about this question. I can pull yours up, but yours was asking about what people have done to work or serve that community, work with or serve that community.
I want to know that.
Okay, well, we can change it. We had just talked about maybe giving space for experience instead might be.
Well, experience is just opinions unless they're telling us what, because what we heard in the interviews before was kind of like a lot of thought around it, but not actual saying what they've done. So I really like to hear.
For me, experience is, like, you were off when I said this, but for me, experience is really important because it gives lived experience the opportunity to hold the same value as formal work that's sometimes done secondhand. Like I was just explaining, like Dakota, for example, when he talks in our budget committee meetings, it's incredibly impactful because his perspectives are shaped by his lived experience versus his work experience, for example. So I'm happy to have both in there, but I just personally would love to make sure we keep experience. Maybe we could add the word lived in front of it if we want to. I don't know. I know that I just want to make sure that we're not making the question so that folks who don't have the same formal work experience can find ways to express their ways of having their experiences valued, and that leads to a type of expertise that is.
I have experience. I found mine. I have experience in there, but I have it in serving or working with. So we can say experience in living, serving, or working with underrepresented communities is what I had. So I have no disagreement with lived experience. I think that's actually vitally important. My problem is that I found in majority of the interviews, they weren't. So here's what I hope to happen, but it won't completely probably happen. People that understand and have educated themselves about the work we've been doing, because they have to this is a walk-on roll, right? They have to just walk right on and get moving, right? And so what I heard a lot in those interviews was, I've done this, but I didn't hear anything that said what they understand about what we're working on really right now. So in this, I kind of hand a little bit of that information to them and then ask for what that is, what their understanding of it is. So that was my intention. If that intention is still part of it, I'm not too cut up about, how, what adjectives we are using. I do want to say, when you just say the word experience without a description around it, everyone will hear it as a different and respond to it differently. Experience can just be, I read a book once. And I don't think that's what we're talking about. So I think we may want to hand some of that information to them. Not too much. We want to hear it, but we want to give it some of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So does that work? So maybe we agreed that under resource sound better, and we're going to put in your experience living or working with.
Who agreed with under resource?
Oh, that's when you were offline. Maya actually suggested that was a better word, but maybe that isn't. So
I just said I liked it better than economically disadvantaged because it points to the fact that systemic components are what keep people below the federal poverty line. To me, economically disadvantaged sounds way too passive and just like it's just something that just kind of happened. Whereas under-resourced points to the causes of people being kept down.
I just worry about everybody. I understand that, but I also think that's I guess I shouldn't be reflecting on who's coming to read this, but I want to make sure everybody understands it. But that could just be my county training where I need everything written at a 6th grade level if I put it out to the public.
What does under-resourced say to you at the 6th grade level, just to understand?
So resource could be finding things too. So, and people having to go get it themselves. So that's the only thing I worry about. I don't, if none of you are worried about that and I'm just kind of underserved is good.
I'm okay with either.
It's better than underrepresented. So we could use both too if we want to really make a point. I think they don't say the exact same thing, but they let them. We put the point. It lets them know what we're trying to talk about. What do you guys think?
You okay to keep in under-resourced or underserved or and underserved? Is that what?
Mm-hmm. And. Yeah. Anybody?
I'm
good with putting both in. Gordon said a thumbs up. Alicia?
I'm not attached.
Thumbs up. Okay, then let's do it. That works for you, Laurel? That says it?
Are we leaving as share your thoughts on how the board can work better to serve this? Is that how it?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
We could just say these, instead of better serve these students might be better. Because we're not, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Ready to move on from that one? Anyone have anything else they want to say about that one?
I like it. Thanks.
Great. Now these were two options and I think Maya had an idea of how to put them together. Why don't we look at them both? Or
I did. I wrote up something that combines them a little bit. I mean, it might be an option. It doesn't, I mean, if one of these looks better than the other to begin with, then we don't necessarily need a new option.
Do you want to put it up there as a third option right now and we can look at all three?
Sure. I'll just read it to Carrie and you can add it. So in what ways has the board worked to expand the district's collective focus on eliminating inequities? How do you see this work impacting the district in ways that are systemic and not just performative?
I think we,
how to see this work. What was your last sentence there, Maya?
How do you see this work impacting the district in ways that are systemic and not just performative?
Great.
Can we say, how can we make this? No, I guess that's for us. How do you see this work impacting the district? Not everybody knows what systemic means. So foundational is a word that I use a lot. But I don't think that just fits in there by itself, because you have to kind of explain that as well. So you could also explain systemic.
Do you think people understand performative?
I use it a lot, so I maybe not be the best person to ask about.
I had put in words like just checking the box or something like that.
The things that you guys are raising is why I think that maybe the first option is maybe the best, to just say, how do you see this impacting the district? And then it's up to us to decide if their ways of seeing the impact of the district are meaningful, thoughtful. I don't know. I just think if we're going to get into wondering whether people understand words or not, then we should remove the words altogether. I'm of the opinion that if somebody doesn't understand what systemic means, that's going to be a really big uphill battle to in terms of, I don't know. I think we work with systems, so it's kind of a word that so I don't know. I think that if we're going to worry about whether people understand words, then the first option is the option that leaves it most accessible to most people.
Gordon has his hand up, and so does Laurel.
Thank you, Judy. I know you guys have worked on this, and I'm basically okay with it. But is there a reason not, let's say, to add on to the first one, something like, how might you want to extend that work in the future? Like, so we're asking a question at this point that is asking them to evaluate what we've done so far. And I don't know, I just wonder if we would also, like the question about systemic and not performative, I agree we shouldn't have words that confuse people, but what I liked about that is that it asks somebody like, okay, and what else would you want to do? I'm not married about this, and I don't need to make us stay here for a long time, but that was my one thought, or if there was a reason why it wasn't included in that option one.
Only because I think the person may not, I had added, in what ways has the board and the district worked? Because there's been a lot of work. Do they have to know everything? And is it bad if they repeat something that actually is happening? So I don't know. I'd like to just get people's thinking on this. It's not like a test. To me, it's understanding how they're thinking in a deeper way about this.
Am I next?
Yep, you're up next, Laurel.
I like Maya's idea for the first question. I also like adding and bringing, like, we're talking about what are we doing, and then saying, what would you add to this? I think that's what Gordon was saying. So I'm not. We could add part from the other one. How would you approach? We can add that part to it, make it one of our famous 3-part questions. How would you approach making this I don't care.
What are your ideas to deepen or expand this work? Because deepen would be to make it more systemic in my mind.
You could just say it's as broad as what would you bring to this work?
Yeah, what are your ideas to deepen, you mean, or expand this work?
Can I jump in? Oh, okay.
Sure, Alicia.
No, I thought Laurel kind of took the question in a different place when she said, "What do you bring to this work?" versus "What are your ideas?" So I'm fine if you guys land on something. I just thought that was a different take, and it was interesting.
Interesting in what way? Like, not, you think it's not needed there?
No. When I say interesting, let me unwrap that. I thought it was, I'd be curious to go down that path to say, I wonder what that means, or what would that bring? I think, because I hear it as two different questions. And I don't know if you intended to pose that second question or not. But anyway, I'm fine if we leave it at this. I just was calling it out before you guys all said, okay, I'm fine. So I'll go with, okay, I'm fine.
So would everyone be okay with the second, instead of what would you bring, to put, what are your ideas to deepen or expand this work? So in what ways has the board worked to expand its and the district's collective focus on eliminating inequities? How do you see this impacting the district? And what are your ideas to deepen or expand this work?
They both work. One just says it a lot in a lot more words.
So there's kind of two questions there, unless you were reading two different questions. And that 3 minutes isn't going to be enough for that one. So Maya has it.
If we're just giving quick opinions, I think I prefer what would you bring to this work? And it just goes back to my opinion that this needs to be an interview that allows people with different kinds of experiences and expertise to be valued. And this gives a chance for somebody to talk about lived experience without understanding the complexities of what it means to try to transform an institution that has been in place for a really long time.
So how about saying, what would you contribute to this work? So then someone could bring in lived experiences or some other experiences that they've had at deepen work or their life work. So I mean, how would you enhance or expand this work? Or what do you bring to expand this work? And that includes lived experience, but not only.
Okay.
So are we working with the second version of the question now?
No, I don't know why it's down there.
I think we're working with the first one still. Yeah. I think how about that? I would say deepen and expand this work.
I would just say, what would you bring to this work?
What did you say, Maya?
What would I still like yours better, which just what would you bring to this work?
It's simple, but I don't think Judy likes the word bring.
Okay, no, it's okay. What would you bring to this work? Because works does the same thing, or contribute.
I think they mean that. I mean, they're.
I'm not attached on bring or contribute. I just don't want the deepen or expand because that's just that. I don't know it. What would you bring to this work? I don't know. It just is quicker, and we ask really long questions, and I think it's overwhelming.
Great, I'm good with that. It says the same thing. Gordon just gave a thumbs up. Alicia? Yes. Okay, we're good. Our seventh. So yeah, you can get, yeah, perfect.
We got rid of one though. So we have 6 because we already got rid of one.
Right, but we just left it as a possible strike through to make sure that we want to get rid of it, I think, just so it didn't get lost in the ethos. But I think we've all agreed that we're going to strike it. So it technically is our 6th, but on this chart, it's number 7.
Let's do 7 and right now, and then come back and decide that, because I wanted to think about that. So how do you think students could engage in leadership within the district more? What would your role be as a board member in helping increase student engagement?
I don't know the answer to this.
Well, you might get some good ideas from the interview. Are you saying it's not a good question, or you want to?
No, I think it's super important, but I don't think we're doing it. So I think it's very important, and I don't mind leaving it in because I think this is the direction we want, is more student engagement. So I don't mind it. I just wanted to point out that I would like a student. Give me a student, please.
So how do you think students could engage in leadership within the district? Just leave it at that question mark. What would your role as a board member, leave out the more?
It could, I like this, but I wouldn't know the answer to that if they're going to give a whole bunch of different answers, because it's all going to be guesses. It could be, how do you listen to student voice? How does that, how does that, does youth have voice with you? I don't know. I'm not saying this right. You know this, but you know what I mean? Do you listen to kids? Do you value their voice and their opinions? Because I don't think everybody does. And God, they have some great opinions. I don't mean here per se. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm saying in the world, not everybody finds teenagers or middle schoolers or grade schoolers' voice worthy of listening to.
Gordon.
I'm okay with that, but I'm also fine with it the way it is. Like, I think I don't want to ask a question that tells people what the answer is. I feel like if we ask this question or something pretty much like it, people will either talk about their experience or value of students' voices, or they won't, and we'll know that. So I feel like if we have a general question, we'll get at, or we'll do as well as, whatever. I don't want to I want to be on the board because I love children kind of thing. I mean, I know none of us want that, but so I'm okay with any version of a general question like this, and assume that people will answer in a way that will help us distinguish between them.
So is everyone okay? Is anyone opposed to leaving it as it is? And has a suggestion? So
we may get some fascinating answers. You're right.
So is this a thumbs up for this question?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone? Maya, Alicia, Gordon. Okay. So let's just come back to the one we talked about striking. Number 3. I actually sort of like that question just because it just gives me an idea how people would approach that. But
then we have to take out another one.
Well, I think Maya made the point that we could have 7 easily with 3 minutes each.
It'd even be 3.5 minutes. So
the newspaper today said 15 minutes. I think we told people 15 to 20 at the last meeting. So
I think when they get invited, they'll know how long it is. So,
and I think telling them a shorter period and then expanding it will just get them used to being on the board.
good training.
Well, now you've said it in a public meeting, Alicia. Great.
Gordon.
I don't think anybody would be surprised.
They're totally surprised.
I would have pulled this, but I'm okay keeping it in, Judy, if you or somebody else wants to keep it in. But could we change the word will to may?
Yes, I thought that was a great suggestion.
Thanks.
Yeah. And now that everyone knows the interviews are 25 minutes, are we okay with the 7 then? I'd say for sure I would pull that if there was only 15 or 20 minutes.
if we have fewer questions and we kind of decided that's a possible strike, maybe we have shorter interviews and that's fine.
I'll just remind everyone that to begin with, Judy wanted 30 minutes and I kind of talked her down a little bit because 30 felt like a lot, and I appreciate wanting to dive deep into each candidate. So 25 was kind of in between 20 and 30 where I was leaning 20, she was leaning 30, and that's where we came up with 25, if I remember correctly, Judy.
Yeah.
Because Judy's remembering last time when we kind of did like speed dating interviews, and I'm remembering last time feeling disappointed that I had to give my answers in such a quick way and was left feeling like I had not had the chance to represent myself well.
Well, that's my concern with 3-minute interviews. I think that's we're not going to get great answers from 3-minute questions.
I thought you were saying to shorten the whole thing to 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I want, yeah, and have fewer questions. Less. I don't think we need 7 questions.
But if we have 6 questions and shorten it to 20 minutes, we're still at 3 minutes a question.
The finalists already know they have 25 minutes and they're scheduled that way. So Alicia? And then we could vote.
This is one of the few questions I put forward. So I would like to leave it because I'm not gonna try to lobby on the other 3 that I put forward that didn't, or 2 that didn't get, oops.
No, 2 of yours came forward. I made sure that 2 of your 3 came forward.
But I had 4. But anyway, I'd like to leave it. Thanks.
So is everyone okay with that, or do you want to vote on it?
No, that's fine. I just, I guess my thought was to give more time in the interview since we have several 3-part questions. And so if part of the time during their minutes is us asking the question as well. So I would like to think about right this second, I'd like to think about how long the interview should be, because I think 25 may be too short.
They've already been scheduled because they had to be scheduled for Monday. So we schedule them at 30-minute intervals with a little transition in between. So I don't know at this point we can change them. Maya.
I just want to, and I don't have to pull up my crazy color-coded working through of all the feedback and information, but I just want to share that the way that 7 questions came up, it was bringing in the input of each person in a way that was balanced. And I hate to say it, but the person whose voice was most compromised in the feedback was probably Gordon, but he also was very clear that he was okay with whatever we ended up doing. But this, and we can go back and look at the original questions and everybody's feedback if we want. And while I would personally be okay getting rid of this question, I am hearing Alicia remind us that she had, you put forward 3 questions that you really wanted, and 2 of them were this. One of the 3, whatever. So I think part of these questions also has to reflect our collective voice coming into one series of questions.
I thought we had already agreed on 7. Sorry, I'm confused. I'm in agreement on these 7. I just thought more time, and then Judy was saying it's already scheduled. So we'll be fine.
Okay,
we'll be fine. And we have, Laura, we have a teeny bit of wiggle room in there. We just gave ourselves some transition. So people are scheduled on the half an hour, I believe. I think Lisa had to go ahead and get people scheduled so they had some heads up for tomorrow. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So just one quick thing before we end then. It looks like, do you want to vote on these then as 7 questions that we use? And then
we can't vote. We can just say yay.
We're in a public work session. We can, I think, can't we?
No, we can't.
In a work session. Okay. Yeah, we have consensus, I think, on this.
Yep.
So do people have a preference about which question? Should we just rotate through, put our names on who's going to ask what? Laurel.
I just want to say thank you to, you said Maya did a lot of this work, and I just want to appreciate taking in all our feedback, and this looks, I mean, I think this is one of our best, like, get together, look at things and go, okay, we're done kind of thing. So I just want to recognize that, because I think that was the hard work you guys have been doing, and specifically Maya. So thank you. I'm not married to any question. I prefer not to have the DEI question, because a lot of people like to assign that to brown people. But otherwise, I don't care which one I ask.
Can we pull the questions back up, Carrie, so we can match them up with a questioner?
Does anyone feel strongly about asking a specific question on this list? Start there. Gordon, say no. Alicia? Say.
I would like to ask 4 because it's the shortest, and I think that rotates me only with one question. So that's how I'm choosing. It's fine, Judy, whatever.
That's good. All right, go ahead and put it on, Alicia. That's great. You got us off the dime. Anyone else?
Well, should we just rotate through then from the top to the bottom? And then does anybody not want to ask 2? I think that's a good thing to be. That's fair, Alicia. Does anybody not want to ask 2? Because a couple of us are going to have to ask 2. Okay, then otherwise, if nobody says that they don't want to ask 2, let's just rotate them through.
Put Laurel.
Hear how people are sitting. Are you wanting to go in a circle?
It doesn't matter. I don't think, as long as we know who's asking what. So
just
why don't you put Laurel on that one? Because I think, oh no, wait, sorry. You didn't want to ask 6. Maybe we should put Gordon there, Laurel on 5. I guess that puts Judy.
I'll take that. Okay, or whatever.
Yeah. You have the last one. That work for everyone? That gives Maya and me 2. Don't have to have 2, but.
Rock and roll. I like it.
Okay, we got it.
I would like to make a request that we not be out on the main ground, that we're on the dais for the interviews, and we leave the area for the public area and not take up most of it with ourselves.
I think that's the plan.
Okay.
So you don't want to be on the floor and the tables like we had the last time?
Correct.
No.
Okay. I'll reset the room.
Okay. So with that, why don't we adjourn? Is there anything else that people want to bring up for the interviews?
Is there a different link we're using for the executive?
Yeah, I believe there is. I haven't seen it yet. Is that right?
Yes. If you'd like to adjourn this, then we'll make the transition.
So I will adjourn the work session of the school board at 10:56, and we'll see you on the executive session link in just a couple minutes.